So what a day. You must be exhausted. We were exhausted watching the racing. It's terrible to see those boats. All the boats splash down, all of them. The 4 boats splash down. And what is great is that we have to wait until the last 100 meters of the last race to know the winner. That was a tie before that. So it's very good to have a result on the winner. We are glad also we finished the program. We are not sure today because of the wind speed, and I want to thank the sailors and the race organizers for completing the program. So my first question is about those splashdown, because it was very embarrassing sometimes to see the boats jumping from 5 knots to 30 knots, back to 5 knots. So what do you think of that? Is the minimum wind limit too low? Jimmy?
Well, I think it was just a little bit patchy out there, you know, like I think every start, the wind was at the correct number for Ian to kick off the race. And I think we had some pretty good races, but there clearly was a couple of areas on the course where it was a little bit of a minefield, you know. You just had to really try and connect the dots, and the guys that did a better job of that ended up winning the race, as simple as that. So, you know, it just rewarded, you know, good handling by the different teams, but also just trying to always perform those manoeuvres in pressure as opposed to a light spot.
So Pete, even if you have a good lead, sometimes you slow down and you stop. Must be difficult, no?
Yeah, well, I think like Jimmy said, you know, it's something that, you know, it's always been in the protocol that we're going to sail across a pretty wide wind range. And, you know, today was obviously very at the bottom end of that. And I think it shows, you know, how hard these boats are to sail at that end. But, you know, I think, you know, we had a pretty good race with Luna Rossa nonetheless in that last one. And, you know, we're seeing some pretty light numbers on the wind gear. And, you know, it really made for some big gains and losses at times. But, you know, it definitely makes for a pretty tricky, you know, yacht race.
Dean, you had a great race against Emirates Team New Zealand. You had a good lead, and suddenly you slowed down, you stopped. Must be difficult.
Oh yeah, it's part of it, and it just sort of, I guess, emphasises how you know, hard you have to work to make sure you don't have those issues. So, you know, we were looking forward to having a good close race again with Team New Zealand, and you know, it was nice to sort of have a small advantage at the time, but you know, obviously, you know, it was all very close. You know, when we dropped off the foil, and it was sort of game over. But you know, it's yeah, these boats are challenging in the bottom wind range to stay falling 100% of the time, and it's you know, it's obviously a good target to have, just to be able to try and do that a little bit better than the other guy.
So Ben, a tough day. So it's a confirmation that your boat is difficult in light weather, light wind.
Yeah, that's right. It was a tough day. I think we've been talking for a while about particularly the lighter areas were struggling. So certainly a lot for us to look at in terms of, you know, what are we doing wrong, really. You know, the other 3 teams are doing a much better job than we are, and so we've got to figure that out pretty quickly. But we'll certainly be doing that.
But at least all boats stopped today, not only you.
Yeah, I mean, all the boats stopped, some more than others.
Questions, please? Pete Montgomery.
Dean, at one stage we heard you say, we've got to sort this out, guys. This is frustrating. Sort what out? Was it a human error on board, or was it a system error?
No, I was just trying to figure out who was going to sort out the drinks when we got back to the dock.
No.
No.
When you hit the deck.
No, we had a bit of an issue in with one foil that we're just, you know, obviously going to sort out, rectify for tomorrow. But it's yeah, we had 2 issues on the same foil during the day, one in each race, and yeah, and it's just obviously frustrating, you know, when it doesn't all sort of go quite to plan. So yeah, it's yeah, better now than later, but it's yeah, all the same, you know, it just, I guess, reinforces how important it is for the boat to be working at 100%.
Question, yes.
Hi, for Sabine. What feedback are you getting from Sir Jim? He's an engineer. Does he see this as a problem or a challenge?
Both. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a problem because we want to be more competitive than we are right now. But Jim, you know, he understands the challenge of sport and certainly development sport. And we're right at the cutting edge of technology here. All these teams have got fantastic designers, engineers. And, you know, right now, for whatever reason, we're not quite where we need to be. But, you know, that's why we want to be competing in this arena, because we want to push ourselves against the best. And we've got to, you know, learn, understand, develop, and make that jump. So, you know, and Jim's behind that, you know. He's the kind of guy, like, he loves a challenge. Almost the harder it is, the better it is.
What do you actually think the problem is?
Well, I can't tell you exactly what the problem is because, you know, we're in a technical game here. But there's obviously a couple of key areas where we're lacking a little bit. I mean, this event is, for us, whilst we're, you know, at the hard end of it, it's actually what an incredible opportunity, you know, to be able to go up against these teams and realize, okay, we've got some serious problems. We've got a little bit of time to be able to turn that around and make the most of that opportunity.
But there's two extreme boats out there. One's coming first, one's coming last. The two simple ones are in the middle, so...
It's a bit harsh for the guys in the middle.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think the problem's with the skeg and the way that sits when it gets in the water and has a problem lifting, or what?
Yeah, you know, clearly the hull shapes have got a bit to do with it. The foils, the rig, the sails, the systems. There's probably 5 or 6 key areas that you've got to nail and get right to get the best out of these boats. And, you know, we're obviously lacking in a couple of those areas.
Thanks.
Yes.
Peter, what did you learn about your team today in 2 pressure situations and both races sort of poor starts? And how important is it for the team, given you're going away for a while after this, to actually, you know, win these races, win the trophies, rather than just get a feel for everyone else?
Yeah, I think we're, you know, incredibly pleased by the way we managed to come through in both races. You know, the first one, you know, Dean and the guys got a pretty nice right shift off the start line, so they got out to a nice little jump, and we just kind of tried to keep it close and take our opportunities. And then, you know, the second one that got a whole heap lighter than we thought it was in the pre-starts, we ended up actually laying the pin, which gave, you know, Jimmy and the Italian Luna Rossa a pretty good jump in that one. But, you know, for us, we've definitely, you know, pretty happy with how the boat was going, and it's pretty interesting to see, you know, where you actually are strong and weak. You know, it seemed like the Luna Rossa guys were attacking, you know, pretty well up that last beat. Sorry, not just the last beat, through that whole race, but, you know, I think, you know, it gives us a lot to go away and work on, which we're, you know, excited by the challenge.
Yes, Todd Neal.
Dean, Todd Nile from Stuff. Are you where you want to be at this point in this campaign?
Well, I think, you know, like everyone, it's this has been kind of coming into this event, hoping that you're sort of in, you know, in a position where you know you can see there's opportunity, and you know we're, you know, I think we've seen enough here to know that you know that we're close or close enough, but we know that there's a lot of work that we have to do to get better, because you know where we are today is not going to be good enough, you know. Come next year, so you know we've got a lot of things that we are going to keep improving, and yeah, it's been a great opportunity for the whole team to go through the process of preparing the racing and learning what it's like to have a couple of these boats on the start line and around the race course. And I think you know all the teams will take some valuable lessons away. And you know, it'll be interesting to see you know where everyone sits when we come back together as the challengers in January.
And Pete, did you expect some of the challenges to be so competitive?
Yeah, I think you it's one thing that with the AC 75 class rule that, there's a massive scope, and that you can explore and design. But, on the other hand, there are a lot of rules which are very confining. So, effectively the boats, I think, when they're up and going, all not that different. But it's, just the little details on top of that. So, I think, we've really enjoyed the challenge, and, been pretty happy with how we've been going. So, probably the other thing to say, I think, is, we've just been blown away by how many, Kiwis have got out and supported the events, and, seeing that many boats, around the racetrack, albeit it being a little bit hard for Ian to, keep them out of the racetrack, was pretty amazing. And, I think it's just a sign of things to come for the rest of the summer.
The race was late just because of the spectator fleet or also because of the wind conditions? You know that? You know what? No? Okay, thank you. One more question from the audience.
Jimmy, Michael Burgess, New Zealand Herald. Are you surprised by the amount of match racing we've seen in these boats so far, and what do you think that means for January, February, and maybe March?
Not really. No, I'm not surprised. I mean, the boats, the fast foiling boats, we've seen great match racing in the past with fast foiling boats. I think the big difference here is that the design envelope is so big compared to, let's say, the last couple of goes around. There, a lot of the components in the last couple of goes around were, one design, hulls, wings, stuff like that. So, I think that's why we're seeing some big differences in performance, and when one boat is strong and when another boat isn't. And we, for us, it was a really interesting day today to see the Kiwis on the bottom end. We've mainly, all the practice stuff we've done against these guys has been typically in sort of mid-range to stronger breeze, and so we got our first taste against them today. So we learned a lot from that. And so who knows? We don't, either Dean or I will get one last shot at them tomorrow to try and learn as much as we can, and then that's it, until, one of us comes out of the Prada Cup.
One more question on the floor. We switch to Zoom. Yes? Only 3-4 questions tonight. Huh?
We have some questions. The first one, Mark Reid, Bay and Delta Yachtsman.
Greetings, everybody. Great day of racing. This is for Dean. Do you think the boats are too technical with all the uploads and data? Are you guys being held hostage by all the software glitches?
I guess you're referring to the information coming from the race management. But yeah, it's been a bit challenging to get the information to the boats at times. It does arrive often a little bit late, but but normally it seems to get there. It sounds like a few of the guys have had had issues yesterday. I think Jimmy, I think you guys had issues with mark positioning or something, but yeah, hopefully that all gets resolved in time for the Prada Cup racing.
Next question, Vittorio D'Albertas. Vittorio.
Hi, everybody. The question is for James and Peter. We saw a very tricky last race. Do you think a code zero, the use of code zero, could have made the race more tricky or less tricky than this?
Definitely would have helped when we couldn't get on the foils. No question about that. That would have been nice to have a code zero there. But the problem was for the rest of the race, it wouldn't have helped. You would have been significantly slower. And I think the first beat, after we came off the line together, was clearly into a jib, and if one of the boats had had the code zero, I think they would have just got, pretty smashed by the time they got to the top mark. So, yeah, it's a tough one, like if, there was a range for it, but not at the start. And that's when the guys have to make the calls for the setup of the boat. They can't just decide to do a sail change in this racing. You got to make your call, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the start, and that's what you got.
So do you mean we will not see any code zero when racing?
Oh, we might. No, I'm not saying that. We might see the code zeros, but today, for when the start gun went, and that 5-10 minutes before the start, for us, we didn't think it was code zero. Had it been lighter, maybe, yeah.
Next is Stefano Vegliani from Italy.
Hi to everybody. Question for Jimmy. So we seen that you sail much more comfortable in light wind. And so is it because you think that in January and especially in February, the wind condition will be lighter than we saw the last days?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I thought we had two really good races against Dean yesterday, and it was mid-range conditions. I thought the boat was very competitive. I think we could have come off the water yesterday with 2 race wins, but we you know, myself included, made some mistakes. But it was very, very tight racing, and yeah, I thought the boat was performing really well. Yeah, for sure. I think we have a good package in the downrange, but it's not just the downrange. We're going to win races in the mid-range, and obviously we know we're going to put a fair bit of work in for the top end. That's for sure.
Next is Jack Griffin, Cup Experience.
Hi, everybody. Great racing again today. Thanks for putting on such a terrific show. Quick question for Jimmy. We can see in the video sometimes that you and Keko seem to have some kind of a slider switch next to your filming station. What does that control?
That's basically controls the foil. Yeah, so when you know, if Keko's driving, I'm trimming the foil, and when I'm driving, Keko's trimming the foil.
Very cool, thank you.
Now we have Michele Tognozzi from Farevela. I think the question is similar.
Yes, a question for
He looks tired, huh?
Against Team New Zealand, how do you share the pre-start with Francesco Bruni, who made the final call to go for the Kiwi on the left side of the line?
Michele, non abbiamo sentito. Say again.
Can you repeat?
Was that in Italian, was it?
No.
Yeah, I repeat. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's a question for Jimmy Spittle about the last start against Team New Zealand. I would like to know how do you share with Francesco the pre-start sequence, and who made the final call to go for the Kiwi on the left side of the line?
Okay, I didn't quite get the end, but anyway, yeah, so basically, you know, Keko and I really kind of discussed the strategy before the start, and there's certain times when you're the helmsman and you make the decision and the other guy's really doing the foil trim, and then as soon as it swaps over, any time you're basically the helmsman, well, you have to make the decision and you have to make the call. But yeah, it's been a real fun process because it's something completely new, completely different than what we've ever done in match racing, and I think in the Cup, I can't remember anything like this kind of happening. So yeah, it's been really cool. Philippe's been actively involved, you know, just sort of building our strategies. But yeah, I thought Keko and Philippe did a really good job. I mean, today we got off the line really well, you know, executed a couple of plans that we'd been working on. So, you know, that felt good to come off the line twice in good shape.
Okay, last question from England, Ed Gorman, The Times.
Question for Ben, please. Ben, you mentioned about all the areas that you want to look at to change the boat, and I noticed you mentioned the hull shape. Can you just give us an idea? I mean, what is the scope for actually changing the hull or reprofiling it, and you know, going into quite a serious alteration program? Do you have the ability to do that?
Yeah, look, the hull is just one of, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 key components that go into the performance of these boats. I mean, what do we know? We've got just under 3 weeks till the Challenger Series, so making a serious hull modification, I would suggest for any team, is probably unlikely in terms of the amount of time that it would take off the water. And as we've seen, every day, every hour on the water for all of these teams are making huge gains. So yeah, I think it's unlikely that we will make any hull modifications, but we've certainly got to look at all of the other areas where we can make some gains and get the performance going and get, you know, as we said a lot, we're struggling down the range, particularly in the slower boat speeds, and so we're going to make some, clearly got to make some changes.
How difficult is it for you that I think we understand that you don't have any more foil packages to come? Does that restrict your scope of manoeuvre in the area of the foils?
Yes and no, in that we don't have another set of foils to come on the boat, and I think some of the other teams potentially do. But we can change the rudders, the rudder elevators, and then there's the sails, the aero side of things. So there's a number of changes that we can make. We just got to work out exactly the right steps to take and go through the right processes and keep pushing hard.
Thank you. So tomorrow, the Christmas race, the Prada Christmas race, with ETNZ against Ineos Team UK in the first semi-finals, and American Magic and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli in the second semi-final. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much. About 40 minutes after the finish, prize giving, and then to follow the question.